Dan Miller is a Democrat running for mayor of Harrisburg. Mr. Miller, why did you decide to run for this office?
Well, I'm a city resident, and I think Harrisburg has tremendous potential, and we maybe aren't hitting it as far as we could. And I've been an elected official in city government for about 20 years on a part-time basis. And frankly, I've seen many poor decisions, incompetence, waste. And I think it's time that we got a professional who really can manage the city and turn it around and get us moving in the right direction.
Now, you are a CPA. What does that expertise bring to this position that maybe some others wouldn't have?
Well, I have a degree in accounting. I have a master's in business administration with a finance concentration. I started my own CPA firm and founded it, and it's a very successful firm. So I have the experience of much financial knowledge. And in addition, I've worked with hundreds of businesses, helping them manage their finances. But you manage in many ways when you're a CPA. It's not, it's consulting in a general way. I mean, it's concentrated in finance, but there's many other systems issues. And we have never, I don't want to say never, not that I know of, have we ever had a financial professional in city government as a mayor. And as you know, finances are really everything. That's a huge part of the city, and knowing how to manage it. And when I look at the way things are currently, there's a lot of efficiencies that we could achieve if we make some changes, do things differently. That's good for the residents, good for our city budget, good for the city in general.
You currently sit as treasurer, but talk about the job that you're running for. What do you see as the job description of mayor of Harrisburg?
Well, I think for our city to succeed, we need maybe 4 things. We need safe streets, we need strong schools, we need stable finances, and I think business opportunities. And so those will really be the focus for me. But I do think it's important. I mean, I know people like to pick out one little thing, but it's so important we have a mayor that knows how to manage, that can actually get things accomplished in an efficient way. And that's the kind of thing I think that I can do. When I was appointed treasurer the first time. I've been elected several times since then. But when I first got to the Treasury Department, we had 300 unanswered messages on our machine, voicemail. And as a business person, you just cannot operate in a way where you don't respond to the people that you're serving. And I really, that's an issue that is all over the city. I mean, I hear that all the time. In my department, we worked on that, and now we answer the phone, we respond promptly to emails, and it's totally reversed. So people say, I can't believe you're responding so quickly. You're the only place in the city that answers the phone. It's a small thing, but it's a hugely important thing that's about management, how to respond to the residents.
You mentioned, you said you've been in city government for a couple of decades, but you said part-time. Can you talk about the structure of city government and which jobs are part-time, which jobs are full-time? How does that work?
We have what's called a strong form mayor government. So the mayor is a full-time position. All the other elected positions are part-time. So I first was on city council. I was the vice president of city council for 4 years, and then there was an issue with our controller, and I felt we needed to change controllers after many years, so I ran for that and was successful. And then I was out of government for about 2 years or so, and then I got back in as the treasurer. These are all part-time positions, and you have other staff that is full-time in the Treasury Department, but I supervise them.
Talk about that job of city controller. What does the controller of Harrisburg do?
Controller is a pretty interesting job, and it was interesting when I was there. In general, it should be not an interesting job at all. But their job is, city council passes the budget. The mayor presents the budget, the city council passes it. Somebody has to enforce that budget is adhered to, and that's the controller. So if the mayor tries to spend, $1,000 more than what's budgeted, well, the controller's there to say, no, you can't do that.
What are some accomplishments you can point to from your time in that position?
Well, in that position, I mean, that was a really harrowing time in our city's life. We were insolvent, and I think the biggest accomplishment there was that we were able to file for bankruptcy. Before the bankruptcy, I'm the one who came up with a plan with the county and the bondholders to try to solve the issue. Unfortunately, Dauphin County guaranteed a lot of the bonds that we owed, and they didn't want to have to take a haircut. So that plan got nixed, and then the state forced a lot of bad things onto Harrisburg. And so, in my opinion, the best solution was for us to file bankruptcy, and we were able to file for bankruptcy. Unfortunately, then our state senator stepped in and passed a law that made it impossible for the city of Harrisburg to go bankrupt. And looking back, that's such a shame, because if you know anything about Detroit, they were going through something similar. They ended up paying like 25 cents on the dollar. What happened in Harrisburg? We lost all of our assets. We lost our parking garages. We lost our incinerator. We lost our water and sewer. So we don't own any of that anymore. And in addition, they doubled our earned income tax, tripled our LST tax. So we have the poorest folks in the region, in Harrisburg, and they took the total brunt of that burden.
You mentioned state Senate involvement. Can you talk about the relationship that Harrisburg has with state government? Being the seat of state government, can you talk about what that relationship, how important that relationship is and what you could bring to that?
It's really important, and it's really important right now because what the actions of the governor have sort of really devastated our city right now. I mean, Harrisburg's built around state government. And we have a lot of employees that work there. And those employees can work from home now. So, we've taken an economy where we focus on those folks for lunches, for dinners, for cocktails, and then other services. And now suddenly, a huge portion of that workforce is no longer there. So that's a very big issue right now in this campaign and in the life of our city. I mean, the capital's great. There's a lot of good economic development that comes from that. And, and right now we have just gotten, I'm a Democrat, our city's a Democrat. We own, our state rep or our senator was a Republican, and we had one state rep that was a Democrat that we could work with. Well, that's sort of flipped now. We've got several, 3 or 4, and we have a Democratic senator. So I think for Harrisburg to work together with the state will be a lot better for us now.
You mentioned that you were also in city council. Is there any legislation or any accomplishments that you can point to from that period of your career?
Well, I'm also an openly gay man, and I was the first openly gay elected official in the entire central Pennsylvania area. And that was before you could get married, and I did co-sponsor, no, I didn't co-sponsor, I wrote the legislation for domestic partnership and was able to get that passed. I also passed, I'm an accountant, I passed wrote legislation to have the audit committee, which is so important, and have the auditors report to a committee before they were reporting to the mayor. So basically, the mayor's in charge of the people that are auditing him, and that's really not a good thing. So several things there. I think my biggest accomplishment, back then, we were insolvent, things weren't good, or we were based on the verge of insolvency, and our mayor wanted to sell our parking garages to a private person out of New York City. It would have been a disaster. And they have done things like that in Chicago that turned into disaster that a few years later they had to purchase at a much higher price. It was difficult, but I was able to fight that, and that never occurred.
Your website says that you'll bring a fresh take to city government. What would you say to someone who would say, well, he's been there for 20 years. How can he give us a fresh take?
And that's really simple. It's a good question, but it's very simple. We have the strong form mayor government. The mayor's in charge, it's a full-time job. As treasurer, I don't even have a good working relationship with our IT department because they are held by the mayor. That's who they report to. So when I try to do things, you have to do it by, influencing them yourself and hopefully getting something done. I don't have the power to do that. The same as controller. You just have very little power. City council, you're one of 7 people. So you've got to all work together to actually get something done. So in a way, the balance of power is very unfair as mayor and everyone else. So I will give a fresh one because, as I said, we've never had a professional really in that position who understands business, who understands finance, and that's crucial to our city government.
You also talk about transparency as one of your major platforms. You have your personal email listed on the internet. So talk about transparency, why that's important, and how would you make Harrisburg government more transparent?
Well, it's nice you mentioned my personal email, and that's been so great for me as the city treasurer, because what has happened is people email me, and I want that. And as they email me, I understand what their issues and what their problems are. And then we can make changes and make it improved in that way. So it's not going through the folks in the Treasury Department and being filtered to get to me. It comes directly to me. So that's been really good. As far as transparency, the other thing that I've done, and I am committed to that because that's really important. I've been on the other side. I've been that city council person who can't get the information. I mean, when we own the Harrisburg Senators, city does. I wanted to get the financial statements for the Harrisburg Senators, the audited financial statements, and I wasn't allowed to get them. I mean, because the mayor didn't want me to know what was in them, that they were losing money. So, transparency is of ultimate importance. I think one of the things I did that I'm proud of is on our website now in Treasury, you can go in there and find any real estate tax information for our city taxes and our school taxes. So anybody actually in the world could actually go on our website and find it for any house in our city. So it's like the kind of transparency that I like to put out there. In addition, I just want to say this. Our financial statements for 2022 were just issued like a month ago. I mean, to me, that's unacceptable because it's several years ago, and you're supposed to have those out within 6 months. We have failed at that miserably, and that's another issue that I'd like to rectify.
You mentioned the impact of a lot of state workers now working from home. Is that part of the problem with downtown, and how do you fix that?
It's definitely the COVID hit, and now they've never really come back, and so we have lost a lot of businesses, and so it's a big part of a problem of downtown. And I'm not going to say I have the answer to that. It's a difficult problem, and it's going to take me, it's going to take the Chamber of Commerce, it's going to take bigger businesses that are actually outside the city but need the city to have a vibrant downtown. And there's a lot of things we can do, and it'll be a lot of things, and we've got to get the momentum back. And I think we need to make the city more pedestrian friendly. We've got to have maybe some more arts venues for people. We've got to make it a place that people want to come and feel safe. And I think when that happens, because we have the Susquehanna River. I mean, I've traveled a good bit around the world, and I don't know that I've ever seen a river more beautiful next to a city. So we have this wonderful asset. So we have the potential to get things going, and I think we can do it.
What do you do about the Broad Street Market, and what is it?
What is the Broad Street Market, did you say? The Broad Street Market is I think, let me get this right, it's like the oldest continuously operating farmers market in the United States, I think is what it is. And unfortunately, there was a fire there. It's almost 2 years now. And unfortunately, the administration did not act. They have been absent. And that building, nothing has happened almost at all to that building. And I think what you need to do is get some action. Like we saw that action with Shapiro when the bridge at 95, was destroyed, or whatever happened down there. And man, he jumped right in and rebuilt it. We didn't do that in Harrisburg. We need to get that back up because it's a place for our communities to gather. It's a place where we purchase our food. It's a great place, really. It's just that now it's empty and nothing's happening with it.
You ran for this office in 2013. Talk about that campaign and what is different now. What did you learn from that experience?
The reason I ran was we had a mayor who was not popular at all. We needed to make a change. It seemed like I was the likely guy to do it. I mean, what's very different about it is I was running my business. I'm a CPA, so we're busy all the time. And the real campaign is during the spring and right now, and that's also tax season for us. So frankly, it was sort of silly in retrospect for me to run because I couldn't really run a campaign. In addition, but it still wasn't out of the realm that I would have won. But what did happen was, there was our richest guy in Harrisburg didn't want me, and I believe he didn't want me because I'm a pretty independent person, and he socked a ton of money into another opponent, raised a ton of money, and I was just outspent, miserably. Plus, I just couldn't do it because I was working so much. So I think it's a completely different race. I think by far I'm the best qualified candidate. I think anybody who looks at it in an unbiased way will see that my credentials, my experience, my accomplishments compared to my opponents they're really in different leagues. And I am no longer working at my CPA firm. I retired like 2 years ago or cut back. And so I have all my time right now to spend on this campaign. And also all that time to spend as the mayor when I get elected.
What's the number one issue that people want to talk to you about when you see residents?
Can I push back on you? I don't like those kind of questions when they say the number one. There is no number one issue. I mean, and to say there's a number one issue, I think is not right to my constituents. There's a lot of issues. Like I said, we need to have safe streets. We need to have strong schools. We need to have stable finance. We need business opportunities. I mean, everything is important, and to say one is better than the other, I don't know. Personally, I can give you my thing. I think what's held Harrisburg back is our school system. I've been here for 35 years. You don't know how many people I know that have moved into Harrisburg. They love it. They love living here. As soon as they have a child, boom, they have to think about getting out because they don't want to send their kid to our school. We have some new changes. We've got the Catherine Hershey School has just opened for preschool. We have some cyber schools. We have some other options like that now that are very good. So I'm hoping that those can be viable options and then also help to improve our public school because I'm really dedicated to public education.
Talk about the structure of education in the city. What's the mayor's authority? Is there a board? Who makes the decisions when it comes to education? I'm very committed to it, but it's not my authority at all. I have nothing to do. The mayor has nothing to do with the school other than as whatever they can do from speaking in positive ways for it. There is a school board. Currently, we have a receiver, I think, from the state helping out or controlling it. So the school is basically separate from the mayor's office. So what influence can you have then?
Well, you are the mayor. You can be a big cheerleader for the school district. You can help get funding for it. You can champion it. I think those are the kind of things. And I can maybe have interns from the school come and work in city government. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do. It doesn't mean I'll be able to fix the problems in the school district.
You also said safer streets. Talk about crime. Is that an issue in Harrisburg? And what would you do to improve that situation?
That is an issue in Harrisburg. And specifically, I'm a gardener, and I run a community garden in a certain neighborhood in Harrisburg. And last summer, while I was at the garden, I witnessed shooting 6 feet from me. And at the same time, on the corners of where that community garden is, there was a woman killed last summer, and 2 summers ago there was a shootout. So there's a lot of problems there. And what my neighbors want and what they ask me is they want cameras. We don't have a real camera system in Harrisburg, so I am hoping that we can develop one similar to the one that Lancaster has, and they have 170 cameras throughout the city. They're not operated by the government, they're operated by a nonprofit citizens organization, but they do deliver 85% of the time when asked, they can deliver positive information. So that's not going to solve all of our problems, but that could help to get folks, these criminals, off the streets. And the other thing that I think is interesting is I was just talking to a woman yesterday, and when I was out at her community, she knows the house where the problems are. But she said the police really aren't doing anything about it. They want her to take a picture, or they want this or that. Well, and I see that in other neighborhoods. They know that these places are problematic. Well, I think we need to intervene ahead of time, find out what's going on there. The police should know, the police should be working to try to stop those kind of things, because we know right where the problems are.
Where would the funding come from for something like the cameras that you talked about that the city needs?
I don't think that will be that much of a problem, because it's about $3 million would be the estimate for maybe 150 cameras to have that installed. And the funding where Lancaster gets it, they get it from nonprofit groups, and they get it from businesses, and they get some grants. We have gaming grants, and I think if people would be really willing to make Harrisburg safer, we'd be able to raise that money. And it's run on a full-time basis, and it only costs about $600,000 a year. Again, that's a combination of grants and contributions, and I think that's where a mayor could go out and raise that kind of money to get something like that achieved. I think that's very achievable.
You've said greener now a few times. Talk about green spaces and the importance of it and what you would do to improve that.
Well, we have a beautiful park that runs all the way along the city and the Susquehanna River, and we have a green belt all the way around. So we have some of that nice stuff. What we don't have are trees. Harrisburg, and trees are so important. I was on a street yesterday, and it was just lined with sycamore trees, and and the neighbors were telling me what a difference that makes in their street and in their quality of life. I vow to plant 1,000 trees in my first 4 years, and actually I do plant trees. I plant trees all around our neighborhood and our house myself, and if I hadn't planted those trees, there would be no trees in our neighborhood. So that's really important. I think green is a whole lot of things. It's not just trees. I mean, I like the whole fact that I've been able to walk to work or bike to work for my whole career, or use a scooter or something. Those kind of things can be much more greening than using vehicle transportation. So, those are the type of things hopefully we can do. I have a community garden. It's a place of pride in the neighborhood now. We've got 20 gardeners there who enjoy it. People come to that community garden just to sit. They're not part of the garden, but they found it's a quiet place and they can listen to the birds or just de-stress. So, if we have more of those throughout the city, I'd be all for that.
You've been very vocal and critical of city government when it comes to collecting on trash billing. Can you talk about that issue and how much is owed, and how do you turn that around if you become mayor?
Yes, thank you. That's a great issue. This is part of what happened to Harrisburg when we lost all of our assets, as I said, the strong plan, and we lost our sewer and water. And the city used to bill for sewer, water, and trash every month on the same bill. And when we lost sewer and water, it went to the Capital Region Water, and we had a department that actually collected the fee if, in fact, somebody was delinquent. That department went over. So suddenly, we're billing for trash, and we have nobody collecting it, and but the real key is we have no hammer, so to make someone pay. Because if you don't pay your trash bill, we still have to pick up your trash, or that's going to cause a whole mess of other problems. So for the past almost 10 years, however long it's been since all of that happened, people have discovered they don't have to pay their trash bill. And that balance has grown to, the delinquent balance is over $13 million. That's a lot of money for the city of Harrisburg. And I was really, that's why I wanted our Wanda Williams, who's our current mayor, when she came for my support 4 years ago, I supported her, but I said, let's do this. And she said she would do it immediately, the first month. Well, nothing has happened. And so that's one of the main reasons I'm running, because I can see that's not going to get done unless we get a change in mayor. And it's a very simple fix, and it's not my idea. I found this out from other cities going to conferences at State College of Pennsylvania cities. But Allentown does it, and what they do is they put 1 year's worth of trash fees on the real estate tax bill. Boom. So you bill for real estate taxes, you bill for the trash all at once. The way it works is there's so many ways to pay that. I mean, there's discounts, there's regular rates, there's payment plans. So there's a lot of ways we can facilitate that. But at the end of the year, if your real estate taxes aren't paid, that gets turned over to the county, and the county is going to collect that. And they have a 98% collection rate, because people know if you don't pay that, you're going to sell your house. Now, we don't want people to have their houses sold at all. So that's the first thing right there. We need to stop that. The other thing is we have already laws on the books for businesses, for landlords, and to get their license, you have to be current in your real estate taxes and in your utilities. We're not enforcing it. So there's a lot of ways to go out there and collect that money, and I think I'll be able to do it.
Well, we have about 1 minute left. Why don't you take that time and tell our viewers who are residents of Harrisburg why they should vote for you?
Well, I think it's clear that I'm the best qualified candidate in the race. I mean, my business experience, my experience in government, and in addition, if you know me, I'm a fighter. I've been fighting for the little guy, the gay little guy. Then I've been fighting for bankruptcy in the city. Now I'm fighting for those trash fees for all the people who are paying, but their neighbors aren't paying. So I'm the person who really can manage the city. I think I can turn it around. I mean, I can't do everything, but I think that if you look at Dan Miller, you compare my skills, my qualifications, my accomplishments to those of the other candidates, it's in a different league. And, and I think that's what we'll be able to do. And I'm going to fight for the little guy. I'm not influenced by any major donors, and I really care just about getting things done.
Dan Miller, Democrat for Mayor of Harrisburg, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.